And welcome to week 4 of the Pigskin Picks here on Delaware Live, powered by 302 Sports. This week we have with us the former Coach of the Year, J.D. Maull, coach at St. George's and Capel Open. J.D., welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's get it started. 8 games to pick. Getting in the middle of the season. We're starting to find out who these guys are, Trey. Let's get started with a 2:30 kickoff Saturday, Glasgow at St. Elizabeth's up in Abyssinia.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep on Glasgow. They're better than their record shows. The Dragons opened their season with three straight AA teams. Two of them are ranked in our Super 7. They scored in every game, and it's not in junk time. St. E's, I find they're in the same boat. A loss to 2A Archmere and then a number 1 ranked Indian River before getting their first win last week over McKean. St. E's at home. I favor St. E's here.
JD, this is kind of in your old neck of the woods. You've played downstate, you've coached upstate, you've coached downstate. Probably know a little bit about these teams.
Yeah, I do, and I have to lean with St. E's because of Mike Lemon, the football coach there, who was at Del Castle. Actually, I was at Del Castle, and he took my job at Del Castle when I went out to St. George's. So I have to go with St. E's on this one. Last year, I'm pretty sure Mike had a good season last year, and Glasgow's still rebuilding. So I'm going to side with St. E's.
The Dragons, they're winless, but their opponent's record is 11-2. They played their first 3 games against AA teams and then the defending champ Tatnall. Both these teams, they're both better than their respective records show, but I think the 1-2 Vikings will be too much for Glasgow. St. Elizabeth is going to get the win here. Trey, St. George's at William Penn, 11 o'clock. Now, hold on. The 2014 championship team is going to be there with Marvin Dooley to celebrate that championship 10 years ago.
I think this game could help us figure out who William Penn is and who they're going to be. They open the season losing the Cesar Rodney in a narrow one, and then they win a narrow one over Penwood, who's 1-3 this season, and they got a ton of points on Milford. They put 50 up on Milford. So, the question is how they found their offense. And, St. George's has been 3 tight games against ranked opponents, St. Mark's and Apo, and they beat Hodgson 20-13. So they've been tested early. But they're walking in, like you said, they're walking into this reunion. I think, the reunion and the home game and the pomp and circumstance of bringing that team back. I favor William Penn here.
JD, you're old school, old rival. You know these coaches. You've coached against them. What do you got here?
Easy. I'm going with my guys with St. George's. They're going to go into Newcastle, take care of the Cherry and Black, ruin the whole Marvin Dooley 2014 reunion. St. George's 14.
All right. It's an 11 o'clock kickoff. Neither team ranked, but big AAA crossover game here with Salesian, Apo, Sussex Central, Middletown. They're all establishing themselves as the front runners in 3A. This game may be more important come November. The Colonials are celebrating the last time they brought a championship in. They're bringing in the 2014 team. So expect a large home crowd for the Cherry and Black. But I think St. George's is the better tested team early in the season, having played St. Mark's, Hodgson, and Apo. Give me the Hawks in a close one. St. George's wins this one. All right, Milford at Concord, 11:30 a.m. start.
Concord, they're averaging less than 5 points per game, and that puts a lot of pressure on their defense. And Milford has the wing tee humming behind fullback Greg Lockett. They do have one common opponent in Mount Pleasant, and they both played in their respective season openers. Concord lost to the Green Knights 28-6, and Milford won 26 way back in week 0. Just looking at the common opponents, and Milford, they got a couple wins here. I like Milford.
JD, I haven't seen Lockett yet, heck of a fullback, but they're going up, having to make the long trip up in one of those early morning Newcastle games.
That scares me a little bit, but I agree with Trey. I think Jed Bell and the guys will have the boys ready, go up there, take on Concord. I know Coach, I think it's Brody, is trying to reestablish the Concord Raiders, but I'm going to go with Milford Buccaneers for this game.
Long road trip north, and it's about as far as you can go in Delaware up north, and for a game, and then that long walk to the stadium. JD, you've walked that before, haven't you?
Yes, and it's a long walk.
It's like exercise.
Yeah.
Concord has struggled to get their offense going so far this year. I like Milford. They're going to manage the trip and head back south with a win. Big game in AA. It's a repeat of last year's championship game, Trey. Number 1 Caravel and number 2 Archmere, Saturday at 11 at Archmere.
Yeah, this is probably the spotlight game of the weekend. And it's, like you said, it's a rematch of last year's 2A state title game. And both teams are undefeated, so it's really setting the table. Archmere is a big win over St. Mark's, but I think the difference between these two teams is that while they both are unbeaten, Archmere has allowed 18 points per game. Caravel, on the other hand, has allowed just 6 this season, shutting out Laurel and battling Class AAA Sussex Central for 3 quarters. Yeah, I'm going to go Caravel here.
JD, Caravel trying to go 26-0. Who do you got?
This is a great matchup between two great coaching staffs. Archmere is always well coached. Caravel well coached with John Reed. I will have to lean to Caravel, just the size. I've seen Caravel in person. Caravel is strong. They run that I formation, which I love. They come downhill, and I just think they wear down Archmere come the third, fourth quarter. So I'm leading with Caravel.
It's a big state championship rematch, number 1 versus number 2 in AA. This also could be a preview of this year's title game. The Bucks will go into Claymont, take care of business, extend their win streak to 17. Give me a Claymont steak shop cheesesteak and a Caravel win here in this one. Let's go Odessa at Sussex Tech Friday night at 7 o'clock. Odessa 0-3, Sussex Tech 3-0. Trey, who you have?
Yeah, Odessa, they're another team that let that record fool you. Those losses came to Middletown, Apo, and Lake Forest, all good established teams. But Sussex Tech has a potent offense. Kyle Thompson's a real deal with 12 rushing touchdowns this season. We're coming into the exact same situation as last year. Odessa 0-3, Sussex Tech 3-0, and Odessa ends up winning by 4 scores at home. I think Sussex Tech takes care of business this time around, playing in their home field. I like the Ravens here.
JD, can the Ducks pull off what they did last year?
This is a toss-up here. It's Odessa, whole new staff. Sussex Tech with Ellsworth running wing T. I call it a close one, but I'm going to lean to Odessa on this one. I think Odessa with the pipeline and MOT kids, I think they come back, and I think they upset Sussex Tech this weekend.
I like Trey is right here. Don't sleep on this Odessa record. They have played 2 of the top teams in AAA, and then a good Lake Forest. Lake Forest should be 4-0 right now. They lost 2 games late. To date, they probably have the toughest schedule in the state at Odessa. Sussex Tech, they're hanging 50 points on the board weekly, but those opponents are combined 1-9, and 2 of those teams were single A. That aside, I think the Ravens have the firepower to score in this game. They also have the ability to give up points. I think Sussex Tech wins. No blowout this week. It's going to be a tight one, and we're going to get to see the Ravens next week on a special Saturday live stream. Another Class A game was a big one. Number 3, First State Military against number 4, Polytech. At Polytech, Trey, who do you have?
Yeah, First State Military, they're one of 11 unbeaten teams, and they're the only one that's 4-0. So, they're feeling good coming into Polytech. And Polytech, after getting a redemption of that win over Charter, they fell to Indian River last week, and they potentially have lost their quarterback this week due to an injury in the second half. The Polytechs don't have to rely on that big line on both sides of the ball to really control the game. I'm going to lean towards First State Military here. I still don't know how Polytechs can respond with some of these injuries, so I'm going to go First State Military.
J.D. Polytech, I think we found out, number 1, how good Indian River was last week. Polytech is big. I went on the field before the game, and for a 3A team, I thought they're a good size. First State Military on the rise. Who do you have?
I'm going to lean with First State Military because of Coach Braxton, who has ties to Sally's. And you guys know I played for George Glenn, so I have a good relationship with Coach Braxton. I believe this is a big game for him. He wants to win that Kent County kid. I have heard that Polytech has over 20-some seniors, but I'm going to go with the upset and go with First State Military Academy for Friday night.
First State Military is on a roll this year, and they've kind of picked it up from last year. Polytech is big, and they're tough in that defensive line. Isaac Bassarac went down last week in the third quarter, did not return. I'm hearing he will not be playing this week. If he can't go this week, that could be a problem for the Panthers. They did have a kid come in, their backup, and threw a pretty good ball. He had a couple completions in the game. Home game, strong defense. I think it gives the Panthers a slight edge. I'm going to take Polytech. This is a mild ranking upset. I think either team could walk away with this, but I'm going to choose Polytech. Trey, Lake Forest, Howard, 7 o'clock Thursday night. Lake Forest 2-2, Howard 0-3.
Yeah, Coach Freddie Johnson, he tested his Lake Forest team early. He didn't go down seeking a 1A win. He scheduled 2 3A teams and 2 quality non-district 2A teams. The same can be said for Dan Ritter at Howard, starting the season off with Caravel, 3A Hodgson, and District 3 champ Woodbridge. Both suffered tough second half losses last week. Both are better than the records indicate. And both are prepped and ready for a Thursday night game. Yeah, oh, God, it's tough. I think I'm leaning towards Lake Forest here. I think they, like I said, they both tested themselves early, but I really like Lake Forest in this one.
JD, two coaches that aren't afraid to schedule tough. Who do you got?
I got to lean with Lake Forest. I'll be honest with you, Lake probably should, like you said earlier, Lake should probably be undefeated. I was at the Lake, it was Lake Red Line game. I just think Lake's skill guys get them over the top here versus Howard. Howard's going to come in tough though with Coach Ritter's staff, but I'm leaning towards Lake Forest.
This is as close as a must-win game as you can get, I think, for Lake Forest. After this week, they begin the gauntlet of Double A District 3, which is the old Henlopen South. Consecutive weeks where they could have and should have won, but came up short. How do they bounce back to that? How do they do that for a third week in a row? Howard fell to just a scrappy Woodbridge team. This game's going to be entertaining, but I agree with you guys. I think Lake Forest steals one on the road here. And our Friday night game of the week, Woodbridge and Sussex Central. Woodbridge 3-0, Sussex Central 3-0, a Double A team playing up against 3A. And Trey, who do you have in this one? This one is at Sussex Central.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you like hard hitting football, ground and pound football, smash mouth football, this is a game to tune into Friday night. Central has established themselves as one of the top teams in AAA, and Woodbridge is just one of those scrappy junkyard dog teams. They'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. I expect, like I said, I expect to see some hard hitting football here, some good running. I think Woodbridge is going to compete, but at the end of the day, it's Central in the castle. I'm taking Central.
JD, two teams you played Woodbridge at St. George's, you played Central from when you're coaching at Cape, two longtime coaches. This is your kind of football here, two tight ends, line them up and get after it.
Yeah, it is, man. I love this style of football. One thing I do know, Coach Dooley is going to have his guys ready. They're going to battle for him. I just don't know if he's going to have enough soldiers to go against John Wells and his army. So I'm leaning toward Central winning this game, just wearing down Woodbridge in the third and fourth quarter with the belly and the buck sweep. I have Central winning.
These two teams haven't met since I talked to Coach Wells today, probably early 2000. So it's been 20 years since Woodbridge and Central have been on the field. The last playing this game dates back to early internet. Both of them come in 3-0, and only one can leave the field unbeaten. Look, just because Woodbridge offense isn't on the field, don't think they can't score. Under Marvin Dooley, they have lived off the pick sixes and the scoop and scores. They like to get after opposing offenses and play in their backfield. Now, this week, they face a different animal in Sussex Central. And although the Knights had 4 turnovers against Middletown, Sussex Central's averaging 40 points a game this year. This looks like an old school, grinded out kind of game, possibly some bad weather. The Golden Knights had the ability to control the clock, which is key, and I think field position is going to be key. I think Sussex Central stays perfect this week. The Golden Knights get the win. JD, you've seen 4 weeks I'm here. What do you think of reclassification? It looks like it's really helped single A.
Yeah, it's helped single A. And let me get it right. Single A is the first state militaries of the world. It has helped that. I'm old school. I like Division I, Division II, to be honest with you. Go back to that. I believe there's some teams that are on that tier 1 that shouldn't be down there. But that's for another day, another discussion.
Right.
But it's good football.
What game stands out to you for the most this week? If you were going to put your eyes on a game, which one would it be?
Ooh, Caravel Archmere.
Yeah.
Caravel Archmere. That's two good staffs. And Caravel is just physical. I mean, they're very physical up front. So that was the 2 games. And I tell you what, that Lake Howard game also intrigues me because I've seen Lake skill guys, and I know Howard always has speed. Is that a Thursday night game?
Thursday night game, yep.
I might try to get to that game. That game's probably going to be better than that Dallas Cowboy Giants game.
Trey, what game are your eyes on this week?
Well, I mean, he picked 2 good ones there. But I think that First State Military Polytech game had us Polytech rebound after that loss last week. Does First State keep it going? Is it a trap game for First State Military Academy? There's some questions to be answered in that game. So that's very interesting to me.
I'm kind of game. Of course, I'll be doing the Sussex Central Woodbridge game. And one thing I like about Woodbridge, I think Trey called them correctly, they're the junkyard dogs. Those kids, I was at their practice yesterday, and they don't care that they're playing Sussex Central.
Yeah.
Just get me on the field with somebody, and that's the attitude they have. And that kind of, with the rain and the wind and the way they get in the backfield and create havoc, that could be a difference. I was talking to Marvin, they said 7 fumbles. They can't fumble 7 times like they did last week to win. And John Wells said the same thing today. 4 fumbles against Maull. We can't fumble 4 times and beat these guys. So, JD, I want to thank you for coming on. Friday night kickoff, 7 o'clock. I'll have the Woodbridge and Sussex Central game. And I believe the Upstate crew is going to try to stream the Lake Forest Howard. I haven't heard if that's officially going to happen. But and then on Friday night, Glenn Frazier will have the Appoquinimink Smyrna game. Appoquinimink on the rise. We're going to have them next week at Sussex Central too. So, JD, thanks again. Trey, thank you. And that's it for our picks this week. We'll see you at kickoff.